Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
This is I Should Be Writing, Season 22, Episode 3.
I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
Hi, folks. Welcome to I Should Be Writing. This is a podcast and live stream for wannabe fiction writers. And I'm your host, Merle Lafferty. I've been podcasting since 2004. I've been writing professionally since about 2013 or 2011 if you count when I sold the book. Never know when to count that. And I try to bring my wisdom, what I've learned, or mistakes I've made, so you won't, here to you. And try to give my credentials because there are a lot of people giving advice out on the internets. So make sure you know who they're coming from, where they're coming from, who they are, where they're coming from. Those are the words I want. Well, I'm delighted to say that I am done with the project I've been talking about for over a year, and that's because it's been largely procrastinated upon for over a year, which is I have finally cleaned up my archives. And I'll go into that a little bit later. Since I got my book turned in and I've been working on just various other things, I haven't been writing lately, but since that is done, I wrote today and did almost 3,000 words. It was a good feeling. I got to have a meet cute over a destroyed fountain drink dispenser that sprays soda water and syrup all over everybody. That's what I've been up to. I'm writing on a new story, a new book. Don't know if anyone's going to want it, but I'm having fun with it. And that's really the point, right? Right? In some cases. I want to talk about my archives. I started podcasting, well, it started in 2004, started this show in 2005. And unless you're a very organized person, I admit there are some out there. When you start a project, especially if it's just a hobby that no one's going to pay attention, you're pretty sure no one's going to pay attention to, you don't think about things like consistency, file naming conventions, whether or not to include a date with the file. And, as someone with ADHD, I say, don't do that. Don't get so bogged down in the little details that you don't actually create. Although I do realize that creating all the little details can be done on the back end and you can make it all neat and happy. So I Should Be Writing in Ditch Diggers, I have 977 shows. This does not count a variety of Patreon only shows. It does not count the several years I attempted to do NaNoWriMo, a daily show for NaNoWriMo. But it is 977. Now, at the end of the day on Monday, if you said, hey, you want to do 23 more episodes? I would have said, hell no. On the other hand, I'm actually kind of shocked that it's not 1,000, especially after the last couple of years, because with COVID and lockdown and streaming, I did a lot more shows in 21 to 23. A lot. I was even balking on season 18 because there were 77 episodes and I just did not want to. I tried to do it a little bit at a time and I still couldn't do that. I had to hyper-focus. I think it's because I knew it would take a long time and I didn't enjoy doing it. Or if I did enjoy doing it, it was like I enjoyed being in the hyper-focused state and I didn't want to stop. And I knew I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. So what I did, if I can get into the nitty-gritty, and this will come back to writing, I promise, because this is a writing show. What I did was the beginning episodes, I was part of the Farpoint Media network for a little while. That's defunct. And some of the episodes I did not save on my hard drive, but were still uploaded at my host at Libsyn. So I had to download those. And those come with ads. By the way, if you don't want ads, you can support at Patreon. Patreon.com/MightyMur. No ads. So I had to take each episode and cut off the front and back if it said Farpoint Media, or the end cap was different. The end cap needed to be the same on all, because it's all thank you for listening to the archives. But then, I couldn't just slap a new beginning and end. I wanted to do the consistency of this is the season and this is the show title. So I had to come up with all of the season 1, season 2, season 3, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and just kind of cut those up and make those in front of each one. And then there's the fact that there's very little consistency on the quality of the audio. Sometimes the levels are super low and I just never amplified them. Sometimes the background noise hasn't been dealt with. Sometimes my interview person and I have very different levels. So I did have to go in and see if I could clean up some of these episodes. And again, we're talking 977. In doing this, I've learned a couple of things about myself. I kind of feel like me starting to record, or sometimes starting to write, although writing does not take nearly as much prep as recording should. But in order to do so, if I start thinking about the details, if I start thinking about organization, I will either go down the wrong path and not record, or I'll talk myself out of it. I'll be like, is my topic important enough to be episode 3 in season 22? And will anyone care? And I think a lot of times when I create, sometimes I feel like I need to sneak up on the project and kind of pounce and just go into it. And I'm grateful that my mind works well under that pressure. However, long-term listeners will understand this, but I can't tell you how many episodes begin with, I have no idea what number it is. We're just going to go. So many. And then in not knowing the numbers, some seasons have like 2 48s, no 70, and trying to figure that out was a huge mess. Some of them, again, we're going into shame here. I don't even remember this. Some of them have no show notes. Like I wrote a sentence like, hey, we talk about the thing that is actually already clearly stated in the subject or the title of the blog post, like interview with Chuck Wendig. And then the show notes will be, this is an interview with Chuck Wendig. Why was I doing this? And I realized something else, and this is very embarrassing. And I don't know if I'm going to leave it in for the podcast or not. Sometimes I feel sad that since a Hugo has been created for podcasting, that I was been nominated 3 times and won once. And since I won, nothing. And sometimes I feel sad about that. And sometimes I think, well, maybe, podcasting has gotten better. More people, smarter people. Annalee Newitz and Charlie Jane Anders, they come onto the scene with their amazing show. And even though I put myself down a lot, I actually wasn't thinking that maybe my podcast sucked. But in looking at all of the details, crappy show notes, inconsistent numbering, maybe I did a production to make it sound good, maybe I didn't. I think I know why. And I'm wondering if, in some cynical part of me is like, well, if you fix it now, it's not like everybody who got tired of your amateur inconsistencies left will come back. On the other hand, I've got to be more professional about this. I've been doing this longer than most people. And in looking at the archives, I saw exactly how amateur I am. And it was sobering. Once you are an award-winning thing, it seems like you can say that forever. Yes, you can. But if you ever want to win another one, you probably should work on making things better. Like, I almost sat down and wrote apologies to Matt and Ursula for not doing a good job on the production side, because I feel like I've let them down. On the other hand, I did, in looking over what I talked about for so many years, I think I've done a good job of keeping things interesting and talking about a wide variety of stuff. What I'm doing is I'm taking all of my... I looked at all the people who've been on the show for like more than 4 times, and I'm going to take that and wrap all those up in their own collection. So you can get the Cameron Hurley collection. Cameron Hurley wins, by the way, of been on my shows the most. Gail Carriger's a close second. And then there are lots of episodes interviewing agents, and I'm going to be collecting all those together and releasing them. So, being able to get like a big, wide view of the content was very useful. The thing I don't know is how often to go back to those topics that I talked about 10 years ago. Because if you guys have been with me for a while, you will have heard them. You probably will have heard all the anecdotes connected to them, especially because they're Patreon, or if you want to buy the collection itself, only new people won't have heard it. And even if they have, do they really want to go and listen to 977 episodes? I don't know. But there are evergreen topics, like how do I find time to write? How do I finish a story? How can I make compelling characters? So I think going through all of that is helping me come up with some plans in the future. But the archives did let me see how often I cover something and when I should do it again. Like, I'm not a newscaster, and it's amazing how the newscasters can spin a story, and then because it's still in the news, but even if there's not a lot of new information, they'll still talk about it, and they'll just say slightly different words and bring in the maybe first new thing, or one new thing, but they'll still talk about it. Like, I'm tired of talking about AI, but it's still out there and getting more and more popular, and just look up someone else talking about the Super Bowl ad with the dogs. I've seen several very, very skeptical responses to that. Going to chat, Triffid says, Amr, you definitely do talk about a wide variety of interesting things. I love your books. Maybe you could work a little more on production and organization, but everyone always has room to improve. I know several other award winners who regularly beat themselves up for not doing more or better, so you definitely aren't alone in that. Thank you. That's very sweet. It's good knowing I'm not alone. I think oftentimes when I get upset about something, and that's like, it could be anything. It could be losing an award. It could be democracy failing. The thing that gets me is the feeling of I am completely alone in feeling this. Even the first time I lost the Astounding Award, I just had to tell myself, I'm like, 5 out of 6 people, and that's, speaking roughly, but 5 out of 6 people lost an award tonight. I'm not the only one. Hearing that I'm not the only long-term podcaster or award-winning podcaster still beating myself up about crap, that's good to hear. Thank you. This is a tangent, but it's about writing, and it's very important, especially for people who are self-published or otherwise in charge of their own marketing. There's a scam now of people doing, like, they say, your book is amazing. It's a shame that not enough people are reading it. You should be part of my book club. Okay, first, they don't need, like, a legit book club doesn't need you. It doesn't need you to approve it. It doesn't need you to show up. It doesn't need you to even know it's happening. So if someone comes to you and says, I would like to present your work to my book club, your response should be, all right, or nothing, because it's a scam. I don't know what is a scam to do because I'm not going to take that bait. But I know it's a scam. People have said so. I'm betting they want you to pay them to bring their book to this magical book club. But the thing I hate about it is they're using AI. And what they're doing is they're going out, and what they're saying is, go find a Mur Lafferty book that has few reviews and give me a description of it and its strong points. And then they take that verbatim, and I'll tell you how I know that in a minute. They take that verbatim and they put it in. So they're basically like, I found your adjective book and felt you deal with issue, emotion, whatever very well. I would like to present your book to my book club. I know this because they don't change it and they all sound the same. See, this is another reason why AI is bad, because it's going to give you crap that sounds the same. I don't respond to these. I've been marking them as junk or spam. But it makes me sad that when publicists do it, and you can tell they're really trying to help, promote their person, but what they do is they use AI to find a recent episode of mine. And then again, tell me about it, tell me what the strong points were, and then they give that verbatim and it all sounds the same. So it's just very, I do want to respond AI ;DR, but that's also giving attention. And sometimes that's what people want. And if you are low selling or underread or under marketed, this is not an answer. I'll bet you money it's not an answer. It's not going to help at all. It's just going to make you spend money, and they love it when you spend money. But sometimes I just feel like I need to go through like a quick rundown of perfect is the enemy of done. So finish your books, or one rejection is not going to kill you. In fact, it'll make you stronger. Keep writing. And money flows towards the author. It's a little more complex during the self-publishing time, but still, money should go towards the author. So anyway, I'm meeting with my assistant tomorrow, and we're going to talk about some strategies, because now that I have all of my archives done and cleaned up and zipped up and spreadsheeted, now that we have all that done, I need to figure out how to release it. It's going to be released for sale on Patreon, but everybody who's already a supporter on Patreon will have access to it for free. But there's also the collections. Do I want to put out the Agent collection before I finish putting out seasons 1 through 21? Should I put up the Cameron Hurley one, or should I wait until Cameron has something to promote? I don't know. What's really funny is, if you're a Patreon supporter, you will have noticed this, is I thought that I thought I'd released the early seasons that I did have edited. I thought I'd already released those on Patreon. So I looked up there and I saw there was a season 6 post. So I made a season 7 post. And then I realized that season 6 was draft, and the only one I had released so far was season 1. So on Patreon, you can get season 1 and you can get season 7. And this, I believe, is the entire presentation of the way my brain works and why I can't even count 1 to 7. So that's why that is. But I'll get that fixed soon. It was interesting seeing who, and this is not entirely positive, but going through and seeing people I interviewed that I never heard from again. Not saying they should have contacted me, but just saying I have not heard about their career happening. And that just could be my not being in touch with everything. But still, there was someone from my MFA program who I did not particularly like, but he had a book sale, so I did an interview with him. And I just went to look up his books today, and I found one. And I think that was the one he had sold when we were at Stone Coast. And then there are the people who died. David Drake, Holly Lyle so far. And there are people, okay, there's a person whose interviews I decided to remove because monster. And that's really irritates me. Well, it's our forever problematic argument of they were a right bastard, but boy, they could write, and boy, they could give writing advice. I don't want that stuff available in my feed anymore. And then, there are the people like, I do have an interview with N.K. Jemisin from many, many years ago. Would I ever be able to get one again? Probably not. She's a big deal. TM. Huge deal. And also gave me a list of people I would like to check back in with. But there are always newer people There are always new people that you want to give attention to, especially debuts. So, it's all a big balancing act, which I guess is the whole challenge of this podcasty thing. When you're trying to inform your audience, but also give attention and exposure to authors. A lot of balancing. Another thing I learned from the early days, and again, I've mentioned this before recently, there were so many feedback shows. There were a couple of seasons where it was, I would do an episode, and then I would have to do a feedback show because there was so much mail and voicemails from the previous episode. So it was like, show, feedback, show, feedback, show, feedback. And I don't know if things have changed on a technological level. For example, we have Discord. Everybody who supports and is passionate about I Should Be Writing is already in the Discord talking to me and each other. Maybe feedback is just something people don't do anymore. I don't know. But that has changed big time. Also, I had a specific feedback jingle, and I don't know who wrote that. And that makes me sad, because it's very adorable. Oh, and Hugo nominations are open, which is exciting. Whenever they open, I immediately, except for, of course, the ones I shill for, I forget everything that came out last year. I got 2 video games, Dispatch and Clair Obscur, if that's eligible. There's some AI art that was placeholders, and people have been making video games for a very long time, and they don't need placeholders. They just, that's not the way it works. And so I think the whole AI placeholder thing is suddenly the dog whistle of, you caught us using AI art. We totally were going to take it out before we launched, but we didn't. We forgot. I'm pretty sure that's what that means. So I don't know. It lost a couple of Game of the Year awards for that. And that's kind of rightly so. But I'm in my second playthrough of Dispatch. And I think Dispatch is great if you want to do interactive fiction, because it feels shorter than going through an entire interactive fiction thing, but it's very clearly, here's how a scene can go differently in the words said, but it all ends up at the same place. And the words that were said will lead you into a subtly different path in the future. Let me explain. There's a scene where in Dispatch you are hired to do, you get the reports of bad things happening in the city, and you choose a hero to go fix it. And the heroes you're using are former villains, so of course they're all real jerks. And after a pretty failed mission, or at least you think it's failed, the villain turned hero thinks, everyone survived, so we did good, despite injury and damage to property. You can have an argument with her, and you will have an argument with her. And there are 3 things you can choose to say to her. She will punch you no matter what you say. But in what you say, that changes like some things down the way. Like sometimes if there's a romance opportunity, I'm not really sure if it's how the romance works, like under the hood. But, if you answer in a way that she likes, eventually that will push you more towards a romance path. But the scene itself is the same. It just, you say the thing and you get punched. So, it's a good indication of how you don't have to go too far astray from your choice with your choices to tell a branching narrative. I watched Arvin Elrond's playthrough of Dispatch. I really liked how that game played out. Yeah, it's a fascinating game. And one of the interesting things was I wasn't sure how I was doing with romancing or even just mentoring somebody. And I found out at the end, I did very poorly. Yeah. But I didn't know I was doing poorly until the end. So that's my look back. It's a lot of feedback. Interesting to think about where some people are these days as compared to how they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. My career certainly changed. And some sobering things of how I kind of dropped the ball for a couple of years, which probably hurt my listenership. And for that, I'm very sorry. Although anybody listening to this is listening to it and therefore not the people I'm apologizing to. So I don't know how to get that message to them. But if you know anybody, just tell them, please. Tell them that I'm sorry. But that is about all I wanted to do. That's right. I keep thinking about wanting to stream solo RPGs. And I have just this week gotten 2 RPGs that I supported like last year. I mean, like maybe 12 months ago. Long time. And 2 of them came in and they're both very pretty. And I think A Perfect Rock is also about to come in. So now I've got like Ironheart, I think it was. It's the mech game. And then I got Midnight Muscadines, which is like jam and magic. I mean, what's not to like? And then A Perfect Rock is coming out soon. So that would not be a gaming stream. It would be a solo RPG stream. But in that case, I need to get like my desktop cleaned up so you can look down on what I'm writing, which is possible. It just will be some work. But yeah, I'll let you guys know about that. Thank you for listening, and thank you for showing up to the live stream of I Should Be Writing. If you would like to join the live stream, if you're listening in the future, then it's twitch.tv/MightyMur, Thursdays at 3 o'clock-ish Eastern Time. And you can see the blog and show notes at murverse.com. And if you would like to get the 977 episodes of archives spanning 20 years of I Should Be Writing and 10 years of Ditch Diggers, then you can support at patreon.com/MightyMur. And if you want to send some feedback, I'd be happy to read it on the show. We don't have to. We can move on from that. Or perhaps we have moved on from that and I could just accept it. But that would be mightymur@gmail.com. You got questions? If you got a question and you don't want it on the show, I can do that too. I'm flexible. I should say what I'm doing because I've got a lot of stuff coming up. I just updated my appearances on my site. There's Retcon in Durham in about a month. There's Demicon, which is in Des Moines in May. I'm going to be interviewing Ursula when she comes through here on her book tour, and that's for anybody local. If you want to come by Flyleaf Books, that'll be next month in March. I'm really looking forward to that. There's WorldCon. There are 2 cons this summer in North Carolina, and I don't know I'm not invited to either. I may go just because I want to see the people who are around there, but I'm not sure. Yeah, just keep tuned in, I guess. And I'll remind you again, if you are a WorldCon voter, then please to consider Escape Pod for Best Semi-Prozine, me and Valerie for Best Editor Short Form, any short story you may have enjoyed on Escape Pod last year for Best Short Story, and this show or Ditch Diggers for Best Fancast. I gotta toot my own horn because no one else is tooting. I'm uncomfortable with what I just said. You guys are awesome, and you should be writing. Thank you for listening to I Should Be Writing, the longest-running writing podcast in existence. This episode was made possible by the Fabulists, who support the podcast via Patreon. Join the Fabulists at patreon.com/MightyMur. Theme music provided by John Anelio. Art provided by Numbers Ninja. And podcast hosting provided by Libsyn. This episode is released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 license. You can find all of my books and podcasts at murverse.com.